This is TWiT.
So Apple, but now we're throwing everything into the mix because Apple just released an iPad Mini
with no fanfare.
Zero
fanfare. There's not even a little movie on the YouTube channel, like on Apple's YouTube channel. No pre-produced movie there. So Mac Rumors did a breakdown of all the things that just was released maybe an hour and a half ago that talks about it and gives us the lowdown of this new iPad Mini. But it's a fascinating release strategy of like, here you go.
Well, it makes one wonder if, and I think the conclusion was that there will be no October surprise from Apple, that they're just going to dribble this out.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I think that it makes the chances a little more likely that we're going to see Macs, but the Mac announcements are more substantial than this.
Yeah,
so I think there still may be a Mac event. It's possible there'll be a Mac event, but I think it makes it a little less possible, a little less likely, because now there won't be an iPad as a part of it. You look at this announcement, though, and you can see why it's a press release. There's almost, I mean, really, what did they do? The answer is they updated the processor so it supports Apple Intelligence,
18,
which is a high.
Expected. Yeah.
It's not. It's the A17 Pro.
Oh,
it is the iPhone 15 chip from last year, the 15 Pro chip from last year, which is weird. I wrote about this morning. It's weird because why would they use?
Because they had leftovers.
Well, this is it. So they're clearing out of, this is on that first generation 3 nanometer process that Taiwan Semiconductor uses. And as we know from the M4, Apple is trying to clear out all the M3 generation on that old process because it's inefficient and expensive. And there are lots of reasons why TSMC sort of said, no. We got here first with this one, but we can't do this sustainably. We built a second process and they redesigned the M4 to run on that process. So yeah, it's also, these are 5 GPU cores instead of 6 on the iPhones. So it feels like it is a combination of binned chips that didn't get into the iPhone, leftover chips. I've got some other, there's some other things that are probably involved here. Was that line, contractually obligated for a certain size of a run? Was the iPad designed a little bit earlier and therefore they weren't going to count on that iPhone 16 chip? Do they want to prioritize making iPhone 16s instead of iPad minis? I think all of these are possibilities and probably several of them are true. But as a result, really, this is an update for Apple Intelligence using an old chip from last year that they can, that it's worth their while to bring over. And otherwise, basically nothing. There's a Wi-Fi update and it supports Pencil Pro, which is
I think
good.
is actually really interesting. There's people like me that I have 2 iPad Pros. They're a year or 2 old. I really have a hard time deciding why should I buy another iPad. I'm not like pressing these ones against the wall as far as performance goes, but I really want one that has the iPad, the Pencil Pro. Yeah. I do not want to spend $2,000 on another iPad right now, and so this one actually looks pretty interesting to me with a paper surface. It'd be kind of a fun little sketch pad.
Every iPad
isn't it too small to really. Or no,
no, for sketching.
7 inches is fine.
Yeah. You just scale up to what you want to. It's like writing on a little pad.
And you zoom in. Yeah, mm-hmm. It's actually an 8.3 inch display, so it's
And spec wise, it's an iPad Air. Essentially, that is what they're going for. I've heard from some people who want iPad Pro features in here, and I get why people would want that, but clearly Apple thinks of it as a small iPad Air, and so it's got the same, it doesn't, no ProMotion and no Face ID and none of those things, because it really is just a small iPad Air, basically.
Comes in colors. I ordered the purple.
Yeah, it looks desaturated from the last time, so they've made them less colorful than
really
it was. But maybe in the right light, you can hold it at an angle and squint and say, I guess that's purple.
Super light purple or blue or starlight, which is
but really still impressive that there's only one shade of gray in this lineup. They didn't decide to make 3 of them
space
grays.
Gray.
Yeah, but having seen some of their quote unquote purples, some of those other colors are like very lightly tinged gray, very, very lightly tinged gray, including starlight, which is just a kind of slightly goldish gray. They're all silver or gray. That's
they're all
what they
gray.
all are, really.
We're all gray under the hood.
Well, maybe if they're using bin CPUs, like as we're guessing, like maybe they're also using like paint colors that damn it, this was supposed to be like sort of an aquamarine blue for the MacBooks. Just use that. Okay, use that paint on one of the
water it
Bin
down a
paint
little.
colors. Wow, that's a new concept. Capacity 128 is the starting point. 512 is the max. That's a higher starting point, but remember, this was 2021 the last time the Mini was updated.
And this is the first Mini with. Is this the first Mini with the USB-C?
No.
Nope.
No. Okay. I haven't updated the.
No, the one
my
3
Mini
years
since
ago had most of these features. Same
Yeah,
display.
this is the one. In fact, I'd be very curious if I can use my case for the old iPad.
I bet. Yeah, I mean, no, the problem. So they relocated the volume buttons, and the
course they
reason they
did.
did that, I
course they
believe,
did.
is so that you can charge the Pencil Pro on the side.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, magnetic connector on the side.
Oh, well, no. Oh, I see. So this is the old one. The volume button's on the top. They're putting it now on the side here.
I think so.
Yeah.
No, the volume buttons
the
are
other
still on the
side.
top. Okay, according to the mini the specs page on the Apple Store, on the top you got your volume buttons, you got your stereo speakers, and then on the right edge you got your top button / Touch ID sensor. So still volume buttons.
So this is when I'm looking at this picture, which is incomprehensible.
Yeah,
I'm
looking at it in
the
portrait mode.
long lens. This is
Facing
the
the-
long side.
facing the screen, yeah.
Okay. And this is the on-off. By the way, I don't mind the lack of Face ID because Touch ID on this is quite good. In fact, I prefer it at night especially.
Yeah.
So they don't say how much RAM, but to use Apple Intelligence, do we need
It's
8
gotta be
gigs?
You got to figure 8. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be whatever the configuration in the iPhone 15 Pro last year was, which was until they announced the new iPhones, the only Apple Intelligence iPhone. So it's basically whatever that base of iOS. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah, that's a little disappointing. I must say, but it's about what we thought it would be. We thought we might have the A18. So that's, I guess, the biggest disappointment. It's just not.
I mean, this is a sustenance iPad. This is just. I think Jason was right to elicit the ghost of the iPad Air. This is the iPad Air in a much more compact, pocketable form factor. Something that is a little bit more discreet, and that's pretty much it. I mean, it doesn't have to be a barn burner. I think we're all happy that there's an option for having enough storage that you can actually put a whole bunch of stuff on it and not care about it, because this is going to be a really nice content consumption device. And we're very, very happy they can use the latest Apple Pencil and it can charge by clicking on the side of it. Because I mean, you got to face it that almost everything that Apple has touch on is a way to showcase Apple Notes, and they're not going to make sure that the latest iPad they put out doesn't have a showcase for Apple Notes.
So they do claim double the neural processor performance, 30% boost in CPU performance. They're really emphasizing that this is designed for Apple Intelligence. So I guess
this is the Apple Intelligence update because they don't want that product. I think they want as few. Only the low-end iPad, I think, is left as being one of these core devices that does not support Apple Intelligence with a new version, right? Like all the Macs do, all the iPhones, other than the SE, right? I feel like that's probably coming there. They want everything to have Apple Intelligence support. So here we are.
At this point, do you think the rest of the updated product line for this year will be just slipped out like this by press release?
I think that in some ways, this could also be them clearing the deck. Apple's done this in the past. Is a couple weeks or a month before they're doing a major release that they want to talk about, they dump the other things that they were going to release that they don't think have a lot of, there's not a lot of reason to spend time during a keynote talking about this.
What
and sometimes
does the iPad Mini have in common with a bunch of new Macs, especially with the new Pro processor? Other than Apple Intelligence, nothing, right? They may have decided like the last thing we need is a lack of focus on the Mac for our Mac event.
And I still think that the reason that they would do at least a nice video, I don't know whether they're going to do a whole event, but at least a nice video, is that if they change the form factor of the iPad of the Mac Mini, that's news. Like that's going to be really interesting for a lot of folks. And I think that they're not going to change the form factor without at least a 10-minute video that talks about why that's great. So
Probably not. And also, you just did it, and I've done it too. When you've got an iPad Mini and a Mac Mini, there's confusion. So and the iPad Mini is not that interesting. So just kick it out there, and then maybe make a nice Mac video. And release that with a bunch of new Macs, because we should see MacBook Pro is like MacBook Pro. That's the other thing about this that leads me to believe that they will do, if not an event, what does an event even mean? Like a warning that a video is coming in a week. I still think they may very well do that for two reasons. One is MacBook Pro is a very important product to them, and this is going to be the MacBook Pro update. And they're going to have M4 Pro and M4 Max chips, and I think that they're going to want people to. They're going to want to sell those because that's their processor prowess at a new level, and M4 on the Mac for the first time. So that would lead me to believe that it'll be a little bit bigger, but they could very easily drop it on the day and put the video out. The video doesn't have to be presaged with an invitation saying, please come watch our video. They could just drop the video and say, hey, new Macs, and walk away.
And they often drop a bunch of like meet the new whatever, like even as much as 2 weeks after the first one actually drops. The day of release is for the let's license our hit song that we can promote on Apple Music. Hey, let's get the CGI. Hey, let's get the dancers in there. Sometimes it really is just what they're going to put onto TikTok and Instagram and YouTube is just here's meet your brand new Mac Mini, iPad Mini, and they can do that in a couple of weeks instead of on the day of.
I do think that there is there's a tier, which is that we're going to live stream it. We want some version of the press to show up because we think it's enough, and we want to control. I think the live streaming of it controls the narrative just a little bit because everybody gets it at the same time, including the consumers. The press potentially gets to see it instead of doing, they'll still do the off, the off date, build up and so on and so forth. But I think that I think there is an advantage to doing the live stream. And again, I think that if they were just doing another Mac Mini and just everything was in the same form factor, I would think that they might just release a video. I think that the new Mac Mini, I think a lot of us are really excited about. So I think that that's the thing that it feels like they would do something to talk about what it took, because I bet you it was pretty hard to take the form factor that they had. They had to make a bunch of decisions about what they took out. They're going to have to explain that. They're going to have to explain, what it took to get it down to the size. I'm sure there's a bunch of engineering lift that Apple likes to brag about. And, whatever they're doing is that's probably going to be pound for pound, literally pound for pound, one of the most powerful computers ever made. It's, regardless of how it, it's going to be this tiny, if it comes out at that, maybe we're all wrong and it's all going to just be another Mac Mini with an M4. But if they actually squeeze it down, it's going to be an incredibly powerful machine for the size.